During this time of quarantine, I have been reading even more than I usually do. And I thought I would make a short video sharing some of the books I recently ordered that I will be reading throughout the rest of the month of May and into June. Hi, welcome to Gently Being. The first book I'm sharing is an anthology of magic by Penguin Classic Books, and it's sharing writings from Antiquity up until the Enlightenment that all have to do with magic. It's a book I've known about for a while and finally decided to order to get into. I felt like I could use some magic in my life right now, and I do find these kind of books great for just having beside your bed or on your coffee table when you just have a little bit of time or energy to give to some reading, because it really is written in just like short excerpts. So it shares some writings on magic and then some reflections on it. It's shared in historical order. So I'm very curious to see some of the evolution in the thoughts of magic, and also just reading about how magic has been interpreted and shared in history and around the world. So again, that's Penguin Classics and the Book of Magic from Antiquity to the Enlightenment. Next, I'm sharing The Need for Roots by Simone Weil. I've read some of Simone Weil's other works, but I do believe that this may be her best known work, and I'm really excited to get into it. I love Simone Weil's writing. She's challenging, and I really love that. There are moments where she just lights up the whole room for you, and you see things in a new way that is just so fruitful for you. And at other times I have read excerpts and she's expressing things that I have been thinking for many years, and then there's those other times where she's really challenging my perspective on things. I definitely find I have to give my full attention and to slowly read Simone Weil's work, because there's a lot there to think about while you're reading. It's not something that you can kind of just skip over anything or just sort of casually go about reading. This piece of work itself, The Need for Roots, came about because she was commissioned while she was living in London to write about a vision of the future for France and for Europe after Nazism was extinguished. Simone Weil was a Jewish woman who was born in 1909, and she passed away in 1943. And as again, she has some really interesting ideas, and I'm more acquainted with some of her thoughts on faith and religion, and I'm looking forward to reading this, which I think must be a much closer look into a political landscape, but also this idea of looking into the future to see a brighter future, the change that maybe can happen after something so horrific has been taking place and is taking place. So again, that's Simone Weil, The Need for Roots. I definitely am going to be making an episode for this channel that is an examination of Simone Weil and some of her works. I think she is just an intriguing and fascinating figure, and she has so much wisdom to share. So, once I complete this book, I think I will then go ahead and make that episode about Simone Weil. In the video I released on Sunday, I shared some of my love for Madeleine L'Engle's work, because the whole video was inspired by a quote from her novel A Wrinkle in Time. But I actually first became acquainted with Madeleine L'Engle's work through her nonfiction writing, and I'm really excited that I finally got a copy of Walking on Water, Reflections on Faith and Art. And it's a look at how an individual's faith can show up in their artwork, and I have heard that it even looks at how perspectives of faith can show up in artwork where the artist isn't necessarily thought of being a person of faith, and I think that that's probably a lot to do with how people interact and interpret the arts. I'm really looking forward to reading this book. I've wanted to read it for quite some time now, and as I've mentioned, I've really first became acquainted with Madeleine L'Engle's writing through her nonfiction, and I really loved her nonfiction work. Some of it I read was a trilogy that she had that looked at different sections of the Old Testament and shared her reflections on those stories that were shared and the characters, but also interweaved it with her personal life and what was happening in her life at the time. And I think she really does that beautifully. And I'm really looking forward to reading her thoughts on how faith and art exist together. Next, I have a book which I've actually already started and I ordered this month, which is The Garden of Truth, The Vision and Promise of Sufism, Islam's Mystical Tradition. I have long had an interest in Sufi thought and Sufi poetry, and I really was looking for a book that went into more of the beliefs of Sufism and their approach to the divine and their, really more of the theology of Sufism. And, I'd seen many books that were about the history of it, but this book is really great because immediately it gets into the metaphysics of Sufism. It's a dense read. It has a lot of information in it and a lot of information that, I really have to stop and think about, what these thoughts are on the nature of God and the relationship to beauty, and it just, there's a lot to take in. I'm not really that far into the book yet, but I'm really enjoying it and really appreciate the work that the author has put into the book to really help the reader begin to get acquainted with the thoughts of Sufism. So again, that's The Garden of Truth. Going along with that, I ordered this beautiful copy of The Conference of Birds by Attar, and apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but The Conference of Birds is an epic mystical poem, and I'm really excited to read this. The poem itself is an allegorical tale about the soul's search for meaning. And Rumi, the Sufi poet that most people are aware of, thought of Attar as a master, and I haven't actually read any of Attar's work, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this book as well. But I decided to first start with the book I mentioned before to just get more acquainted with some of the thoughts and worldviews of Sufism. Again, this is The Conference of Birds. The last book that I ordered and I'm actually currently reading is Etty Hillesum's An Interrupted Life and Letters from Westerbork. The Interrupted Life portion is her journal that she was keeping in 1941 and 1942, and Letters from Westerbork are letters that she sent while she was living in the Jewish ghetto Westerbork. I'm near the end of reading the diary portion of this book. Etty herself was a Jewish Dutch woman, and she, in her diary, is writing about her relationships at the time and the realities of living in a Nazi-occupied area. She's just this beautiful woman who finds these moments of beauty throughout the diary so far while living in these, abhorrent conditions. And I don't feel like I can say too much about it because I would hate to not do justice to the thoughts and this woman when I haven't actually completed the book. So I think I'll make a video just about this book and some of the insights that she shares in the book while she is or I should say in the diary portion when she is, discussing the relationships that she has at the time and just what her day-to-day life is like. You also get this beautiful insight into this woman's growing faith and spiritual life and the way that she interprets it and understands it. Etty is considered a mystic in both Jewish faith traditions and also in Christian traditions. They see her as a mystic, and she, is just this beautiful figure that is sharing these beautiful words. And again, I don't want to say too much because I'm not done the book, and I hope to make a video about Etty and her life soon. Thanks so much for watching this video and just, getting a little glimpse into some of the books I'm reading. I just truly find that immersing myself in the words of others to be comforting at this time, and I'm taking the opportunity to just learn more and more. And I hope to make some videos about some of the books that I will be reading. And please share any books that you're currently reading in the comments down below. In the description, I'll share the names and titles of all the books that are mentioned in case one may have caught your interest and you'd like to order a copy for yourself or see if your library has it available as an ebook. Thanks so much for spending time with Gently Being. I'll be back on Sunday with a brand new video, and I'm wishing you a wonderful week until then. Thanks again.